What's good, Commanders fans, and happy Victory Monday. It feels good to say what's good, Commanders fans. I've been saying it anyway because I was not doom and gloom like a lot of people were last week after the Packers lost. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, we're going 6-11, 7-10 after losing to what I still believe is the best team in the league. I think it's still debatable. I mean, I still think they're better than the Eagles, in my opinion. But after losing to, you can argue for the best defense, losing to the best defense in the league. If you don't think they're the best team in the league, you argue the best. They have the best defense or a top three team in the NFL. And on a short week, I don't like the short week excuse, but still, Cliff is awful in short weeks. As you can see, he's really good in a normal 7-day schedule week or 10-day week that we had or 10-day break that we had in between games. Cliff was just so soft. He was so soft against the Packers. He coached soft. We coached scared. We played scary football against the Packers. And I loved how aggressive and nasty and mean and physical we were yesterday. We just got back to our football, running the football. Of course, Jaden can sling it and throw it, and Mariota is capable of doing it. But I loved the Naval Academy style of offense. It wasn't necessarily Naval style Academy like Mariota used to do with the Falcons that one year, because he was throwing the ball, and there was a couple of drops. Like Jalen Lane had a drop, Debo had a drop. Marcus Mariota threw the ball 21 times. If it was really Naval Academy style, it would have been like 15 passes at the most instead of 21 attempts. But no, I love the style of football we played yesterday, man. McNichols was a dog, 4 carries for 78 yards. Most of that was the 60-yard run. Mariota, if he didn't have that fumble, the Shaq and the full fumble, 6 carries for 40 yards. So, I mean, we just got back to our bread and butter, and then we played a team in the Falcons. I'm not going to call them terrible, because they do have talent with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Darnell Mooney, and B. John Robinson. Like, they have a lot of talent, as we saw last year when we barely beat them in overtime. But it's another team that we should beat, and we should really handle them in their own house and possibly bring the belt out again like we did against the Raiders. But the point of the video today, what I want to talk about, I do want to do my normal schedule, studs and duds, but I did want to go over some injury updates and then possibly look at some free agents that I think we should pick up. And I talked about a couple of free agents a couple of days ago. I think it was either Friday or Thursday, of some corners that I thought we should have picked up anyway or go after before the Trey Amos calf injury, before the Marshawn Lattimore concussion, and then the unfortunate news with Will Harris, where he has, per Ian Rappaport, he suffered a fractured fibula, and he's having more tests to determine the full extent of the injury. But Harris is out for the foreseeable future. So that's our free safety. Well, he plays like strong. They interchange. I mean, you can say Quan plays free. Sometimes he plays strong. Will plays free. Sometimes he plays strong. So there's really just like, they interchange, honestly. But Will Harris did a solid job yesterday. He hit a nice pass breakup on Brock Bowers. He's been really good at tackling. He forced a fumble on Russell Wilson game 1. He struggled in game 2 against the Packers, but everybody did from top to bottom. Let me see. What was his PFF number yesterday? He had a 67.7 PFF grade, 66.1 run defense grade yesterday as well. But he got banged up twice in that game. There's one time where he laid down, and the second time he just was done for the game with the fractured fibula. So we're going to have to sign a safety. We don't really have a lot of guys on the practice squad. I know we got Robert McDaniel from Jackson State. And no, we're probably not going to sign Gabe Taylor and bring him in for a workout. I mean, they could if they want to, but I highly doubt they would put Gabriel Taylor in the game. But, it would be nice if they brought him in for a workout or something like that. That'd be cool. But those are the injuries that we're going to hear about today. Terry McLaurin with the quad. I think he's going to be fine. He was on the sideline. Maybe he would have went back in if the game was a closer game. But he did leave, and he did not return. That allowed Luke McCaffrey to get a touchdown. That was awesome. I was so happy for Luke to finally do something. And it did kind of feel like a walk-on that comes in a game, and he scores, and the crowd goes crazy. But hopefully it's not that feeling anymore. And that's something normal for Luke. I mean, he's not going to score a touchdown every game, but just like a big play, like a 10-yard catch, 15-yard catch here and there. So shout out to Wes Welker for helping Luke McCaffrey out with that. And he did a darn good job. So Marshawn Lattimore has a concussion. Those are tricky. Those are dicey. We saw Tyrone Tracy for the Giants last year. He had a concussion. And the next thing you know, he played against us. But whenever our guys have a concussion, they sit out. So it depends on, I guess, team doctors or whatever tests they do. I know Dan Quinn probably was concussed yesterday as well, but he was fine. But our guys, typically when they get concussed, Austin Eckler, he missed a week. And then he had the really bad concussion against Dallas, and then he came back. But he's a guy who's been concussed multiple times. I don't think Marshawn has suffered a concussion before with the Saints. I'm not 100% sure. Of course, he's had a bunch of injuries with the hamstring and missing games here and there, of course, throughout his career. But I don't think he suffered a concussion. But I do want to get a quick word from today's sponsor, Sleeper. Make sure you guys check out Sleeper. What's good, Commanders fans? Just want to give you guys a great deal with the promo code Oliver for Sleeper. Make sure you guys check out the Sleeper app. First-time users, you get 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time using Sleeper. Sleeper is a great fantasy app for all sports, especially the NFL, for more or less on player projections. You pick the more or less on the projections, like Terry McLaurin. Receptions, you can pick the more on that for 4.5 receptions on Sunday against the Giants. I'm taking more on that. And they also have great deals. Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, they have free squares, more than half a pass yards. They're going to step on the field and get that. So make sure you guys check out Sleeper. Also on Sleeper, you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football on Sleeper. Check it out. Terms and conditions apply. So the pick, like I said, I'm giving you for you guys on Sleeper is Terry McLaurin, more than 4.5 receptions, and then take the free square with Joe Burrow, more of a half a passing yard, which is just insane. It's just a great deal that they're giving. Free money, a free play that they're giving on Sleeper. Great deal. Terms and conditions apply on Sleeper. Like I said, first-time users, 100% deposit match up to $100. Click on the link down below in the description and use promo code Oliver. Let's get back to the video. Peace. Make sure you guys check out Sleeper, 100% deposit match up to $100 for first-time users. Use promo code Oliver. All right, so yeah, that's what I said about Marshawn. I think they should get Stephon Gilmore just for depth anyway. He's a guy that can come in and help. He had a solid year last year. He had a really good year with the Cowboys. Like I said, he did a good job against A.J. Brown where he forced a fumble. That was in 2023. He knows the defense with Joe Wood Jr. He knows the defense with Dan Quinn. Stop playing around. No more Kayvon Seymours. No more Bobby Prices of the world. No more Rashad Wildgoose. I know they didn't sign Rashad Wildgoose, but you guys get the point. Get a legitimate corner who has played in the league before that can legitimately help this team. I know Stephon Gilmore is elderly, but who cares? The whole team is elderly for the most part. And if the guy can play, he can play. I don't care about age. I don't care if he's 22 or 34, 35. If you can play, you can play. Von Miller went out there and got a sack. He had to use the oxygen gas mask, but it didn't matter because he can play. He can still play. Mariota's elderly too a little bit, and he can still play. He's got gray hair and whatnot. And yeah, I just don't care. Zach is elderly, and he still gets it done. Austin Eckler, before he got injured, he's getting it done. Bobby Wagner's elderly. He's still getting it done. So all these guys that are 34, 33, 32, they're still hooping. They're still balling. Debo is 31, 30. Terry is 30. I don't give a crap about guys being 30 years old. I could not care less. I couldn't care less. Kendall Fuller, he's elderly too. I would bring him in for a workout. He can still play. He can still make plays. He takes the ball away too. That's what I like about Kendall Fuller. He takes the ball away. He doesn't get a bunch of interceptions, but when he was here, he had the pick six against Dak. He had a pick six against the Texans. I get it. Talking about stuff from years ago, but he's a smart, savvy player. He doesn't have the speed anymore. A double move will cook him, but we brought in his brother Kyle Fuller for a workout. Why not bring Kendall Fuller in for a workout with the Dolphins? He was just with the Dolphins last year, and he still has some left in the tank. Other guys that are available, there's not a lot of guys like Cam Dantzler. Mike Hilton's more of a slot guy. Who else is on this list? Asante Samuel Jr. He has a neck issue, and he's getting a CT scan in October. So I know some people commented about Asante Samuel Jr., but he's not even cleared to play football until October. So he's not an option at this point. So the only options I see is really Stephon Gilmore, Kendall Fuller, and maybe Mike Hilton, and that's really it. That's really it. Cam Dantzler, maybe. Michael Davis is still a free agent. He's awful. We had him here last year. Kevin King is a free agent. And that's really it for the most part. So just Asante Samuel. Not Asante Samuel. Stephon Gilmore and Kendall Fuller. And then with Will Harris being out, of course, everybody wants Justin Simmons. I'm not very high on Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons struggled last year. Now, I get it. Justin Simmons is a ball hawk. He's been a ball hawk in his career with the Broncos. He had a PFF grade of 59.9 last year, 114th among safeties, which is terrible. He had 16 missed tackles, which is bad. And he gave up a passer rating of 105.1 when targeting, which is bad as well. 22 receptions allowed, 47th among safeties, which is not good as well. So he just didn't have a good year with the Falcons, but I do think he could resurrect his career here. We revive careers. Once again, he's 31, which is not super old. Once again, I don't care about the age. I couldn't care less when people bring that up. 60.8 coverage grade, which is fine. It's okay. But Justin Simmons to replace Will Harris while he's out or fill in, I think that would be a good pickup. I think that would be a good signing. Dan Quinn, I don't think there's any familiarity there with Justin Simmons. I think Justin Simmons, no, there's not because he was with the Falcons only last year. With the Broncos, I don't think there's any familiarity there with Adam Peters. I'm not sure if there's any ties or anything like that. But Justin Simmons is a guy that I definitely would call for a workout. And he said in a podcast that he wanted to come here too. He said the Eagles and the Commanders. He said the Commanders for sure on a podcast that he was interested to come here. But there haven't been any talks. But they need to call him today. They need to call him today. Bring him in for a workout and sign him. Sign him, sign Stephon Gilmore. Those are the two signings they should make. Other safeties that I do like, I think Marcus May. He played with the Baltimore Ravens. He had a couple interceptions in his career. He has 20 interceptions in his career, so he takes the ball away. I do like him. Darnell Savage went to Maryland. Louis Cine is terrible. No, Marcus Williams, not Marcus May, but Marcus Williams is a guy that intrigues me. Derek Forrest is a free agent, former Commander. They cut him last year. John Johnson from the Rams, who's from PG County. If you just want to bring him in a pinch, I think he wouldn't be a bad pickup as a free safety. He had a couple solid years with the Rams. So those are the options. The options are so limited and small, and it's the third week of the NFL. It's the fourth week, so you're not going to bring in a juggernaut. That's what people have to understand at this point. But to bring somebody to fill in while Will Harris is out, Percy Butler got banged up too. So just the depth is really, really hurting. So they need to bring somebody in from the outside. It is what it is. Kickers, I would bring a kicker in too. I really would. All right, studs and duds. Duds was Matt Gay. He got lucky with Pete Carroll calling that timeout and icing him. He should not have done that because he would have missed the kick anyway. But he did make the 56-yarder. So I'll give him credit for that. But I still would bring in competition. Or you just leave him alone and see how he does against the Falcons. That's probably what they're going to end up doing. But I still have him on thin ice for sure. There were so many studs. The D-line, Terry, Marcus Mariota, Jeremy McNichols, Bill, C-Rod. Debo was a stud. Marshawn Lattimore played well. I got to give him his credit, man. I've been giving him a tough time because he was awful against the Packers. He had a good game against the Giants, but he was really bad against the Packers. He had 2 targets and 1 catch allowed for 12 yards and forced an incompletion. So they didn't really test him. Trey Tucker was the only guy who really made an impact wide receiver-wise. Jacoby Myers did have that 1 catch for 45 yards. Other than that, they were radio silent for the most part from a wide receiver standpoint. Trey Amos had a good day. He should have got that pick. It is what it is, though, but Trey Amos played well. His PFF grade, Jerron Payne had a 90.0 PFF grade. Eddie Goldman had an 86.5. Bobby Wagner had 2 sacks on an 80.6 PFF grade. Noah I, 79.9. Dorrance played well. He got a sack, 76.4. Trey Amos, 73.6 PFF grade. Johnny Newton, 72.3. Frankie Louvu, 71.6 as well. Let me see who else. Javonte John Baptiste, I thought he played, I believe he got a sack, 65.6. PFF grade 2, Von Miller 58.0. Javon Kinlaw struggled with a 47.2. Quan Martin struggled a little bit in coverage and got ran over by Ashton Genty. He had a 44.8 PFF grade. Chris Paul was a stud, stepping in for Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman was benched because they said a competition between Brandon Coleman and Chris Paul, which is really, really odd. I'm really surprised that they benched Brandon Coleman. Even though Brandon Coleman did struggle against the Packers, he had a really bad game. I think he had like a below 20 PFF grade or something like that, which is really bad. And I knew, so it wasn't for like personal, it wasn't just because, it wasn't like him having a disagreement with the coaches or him being late to practice or anything like that. They just feel like Chris Paul played better than Brandon Coleman, which is insane for a 3rd round pick. To bench your 3rd round pick is pretty crazy. You had him starting at left tackle, you move him to left guard, and then you bench him in the 3rd game of the season for Chris Paul, which is pretty crazy. That is wild. So Brandon Coleman did struggle, don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty surprised. And Chris Paul stepped up to the plate, man. He played well. Let me bring up Chris Paul stats. Chris Paul had a 66.4 overall PFF grade, but he allowed 0 pressures, 0 hurries, and 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks. He had an 87.8 pass protection effectiveness grade. So Chris Paul is going to start now. It's going to be Tunzel, Chris Paul, Biotic, Allegretti. No, hold on. Allegretti's still on the bench. Right guard will be Wiley and right tackle will be Connerly. So I was surprised they didn't put Allegretti in there too. I'm really surprised. I really am. But Brandon Coleman being benched is not a good look. And I was going to say this about Adam Peters' draft picks, but Jalen Lane saved the day and Luke McCaffrey saved the day with getting that touchdown. But I was gonna give him a tough time about some of the draft picks. I really was. With Ben Sinnott not being impactful and Dom Hampton being released. I was going to give Adam Peters a little bit of a hard time, but Jalen Lane definitely saved the day. Luke McCaffrey did do something. He stepped up. Johnny Newton did a little bit today, too. John Baptiste did something today too, or yesterday too. Chris Moore had an 68.6. I think he was a stud. Just him actually catching the football makes him a stud because he was so bad in preseason. I'm very happy with what we've gotten from Chris Moore. He was a stud yesterday. Zach Ertz, 56.7. Trent Scott with a 48.1 PFF grade. Deebo Samuel had a 43.6 PFF grade, probably because of the drop. But other than that, he was fine. Ben Sinnott, 71.4. Luke McCaffrey, 75.3. So those were the studs. And Mariota, man, he played really well. Played really darn well, man. I was impressed. I was very impressed. Trent Scott played 19 snaps yesterday. Let me see if I can bring up the Brandon Coleman stat from the Packers game and how bad he was. He's given up one quarterback hit, allowed 31.7 pass blocking grade, 58.9 run blocking grade, which is about average. The pass blocking grade is really bad, 31.7. So yeah, I mean, that might be it for him. When you get benched, it's hard for you to get your spot back, man. It's hard, and I don't think they're gonna trade him because you still need the depth. But yeah, I was shocked at that, to say he was inactive in a DNP coach's decision. Like, the fact he was inactive is crazy. Like, at least have him suit up. So, knock on wood, Chris Paul gets injured or Allegretti gets hurt or somebody, he could play. But to have him inactive, like sitting on the bench with Michael Dieter in street clothes, is crazy. It really is. For him to be your third round pick is pretty crazy. So I think they need. We'll see. I'm intrigued to see what they do against the Falcons with Brandon Coleman, or really for the rest of the year, man. I'm really surprised. I don't know. OG Bobby Johnson, he's probably the one that made the decision first and foremost because he's the offensive line coach. But wow, I mean, that is pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy. And Dan Quinn just said it was a competition, and they went with Chris Paul. They went with Chris Paul. So that is pretty wild, man. Where is it at, man? Yeah. So, but all right, you guys let me know what you guys think. As always, Stephon Gilmore, Justin Simmons, Kendall Fuller. I know they're elderly. They're from the AARP group and senior discounts, and watching Prices Right at 11 a.m. every morning and stuff like that. I know you guys get your jokes off about the retirement home and stuff like that, but that's just all. That's all that's really left, man. That's all that's really left. Yeah, Dan Quinn said competition is a part of who we are. He said whoever wins at both guard spots will go that week. And Chris Paul won. Maybe Brandon Coleman will win, but they're not gonna change it after a game like that. When you dominate in the trenches like that, you're not gonna switch back to what happened before. They're just not. So, but all right, you guys let me know what you guys think. As always, Health Commanders. Peace.